Welcome to the 10 Minutes Gold Mine, where every book gives you a treasure of knowledge in just 10 minutes. What if embracing your imperfections could lead to a more fulfilled, authentic life? Many of us are taught to strive for perfection, to present a version of ourselves that meets the expectations of others, and to constantly improve. But what if the key to living a rich and meaningful life lies not in trying to be perfect, but in accepting ourselves as we are, flaws and all? Brené Brown's The Gifts of Imperfection challenges the pursuit of perfection and advocates for the transformative power of vulnerability and self-acceptance. In this groundbreaking book, Brown introduces the concept of wholehearted living, a way of being that requires courage, compassion, and connection. But how do we practice this kind of living in a world that often values external achievement over internal peace? And how can we stop feeling as though we need to live up to impossible standards? What does it mean to live wholeheartedly? At the heart of the Gifts of Imperfection is the idea of wholehearted living. Living with courage, compassion, and connection, in alignment with our true selves. Brown defines this as a way of embracing all of who we are, including our imperfections, instead of trying to hide or fix them. By accepting our imperfections, we open ourselves up to authenticity, creativity, and deep connection with others. Brown's philosophy encourages us to step away from the need for external validation and focus on the power of personal acceptance. Wholehearted living, according to Brown, is not about achieving a perfect version of ourselves. Instead, it is about fully embracing our humanity, with all its complexities, struggles, and beautiful imperfections. It's about being true to ourselves, regardless of what society or others may think. But how do we make the shift from striving for perfection to embracing vulnerability and imperfection? The power of vulnerability. One of the central themes of the book is the importance of vulnerability. Brown argues that vulnerability is not a weakness, as many of us have been led to believe, but a source of strength. She explains that vulnerability is essential for connection, creativity, and joy. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door to deeper relationships and richer experiences. Brown's research shows that people who live wholeheartedly embrace vulnerability. They're willing to be seen as they are, flaws and all. They recognize that vulnerability is not about oversharing or being exposed to judgment. Instead, it's about being open to others and allowing ourselves to be imperfect. This requires courage, as it involves stepping outside of our comfort zones and letting go of the facade of perfection. But how can we cultivate this kind of vulnerability in our lives? Brown shares that this transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires conscious effort to make space for our vulnerabilities and allow them to be witnessed by others without fear of judgment. It's about being willing to take risks, to be seen, and to show up as our true selves. Releasing the need for perfection. Brown explains that the first step towards wholehearted living is to acknowledge and release our need for perfection. She writes, "Perfectionism is not the path to self-worth. It's a shield against vulnerability. Many of us use perfectionism as a way to protect ourselves from judgment and criticism, believing that if we are perfect, we will be accepted and loved. But in reality, perfectionism is a barrier to authentic living because it stops us from being real with ourselves and others." Brown breaks down perfectionism into several key traits. Fear of judgment. The constant worry about how others perceive us. Unrealistic expectations. The idea that we must be flawless and meet impossible standards. People-pleasing. The need to gain approval from others, often at the expense of our own desires and needs. As we recognize these traits in ourselves, we can begin to shift our mindset away from the pursuit of perfection and towards the pursuit of authenticity. When we release the need to be perfect, we open up the possibility to be free from self-imposed pressures, enabling us to step into a more genuine version of ourselves. Cultivating courage, compassion, and connection. To live wholeheartedly, Brown stresses the need to cultivate three key qualities: courage, compassion, and connection. These qualities are not only important in building deeper relationships with others, but are also essential for building a strong relationship with ourselves. Each quality is intertwined, and together they form the foundation for wholehearted living. Courage. Living authentically requires courage. It means being willing to be vulnerable, to take risks and to face discomfort. Courage is the foundation for everything else, because without it we cannot embrace our imperfections or connect with others in a meaningful way. Compassion. Brown notes that to be truly compassionate towards others, we must first be compassionate with ourselves. Compassion is about accepting ourselves as we are, without judgment or criticism. It's about showing ourselves the same kindness that we would show to a close friend. Practicing self-compassion allows us to heal and grow without the pressure of perfection. Connection. At the core of wholehearted living is the ability to connect with others. Brown emphasizes that connection is built on authenticity and vulnerability. When we allow ourselves to be imperfect, we create space for others to do the same, leading to deeper and more meaningful relationships. The connections we create in this way are more profound, grounded in mutual understanding and respect for each other's uniqueness. The 10 guideposts for wholehearted living. In the Gifts of Imperfection, Brown outlines 10 guideposts for wholehearted living, each representing a specific mindset or behavior to practice. These guideposts are a roadmap for releasing perfectionism, embracing vulnerability, and living a more authentic life. 1. Cultivating authenticity. Letting go of who you think you're supposed to be and embracing who you truly are. 2. Cultivating self-compassion. Practicing kindness and understanding towards yourself, especially when you make mistakes. 3. Cultivating a resilient spirit. Building the ability to bounce back from adversity and remain grounded in the face of challenges. 4. Cultivating gratitude and joy. Practicing gratitude for the present moment and finding joy in everyday experiences. 5. Cultivating intuition and trusting faith. Learning to trust your inner voice and intuition, and developing faith in yourself and the process of life. 6. Cultivating creativity. Allowing yourself to engage in creative expression without worrying about outcomes or judgment. 7. Cultivating play and rest. Giving yourself permission to rest, have fun, and enjoy life without the pressure to always be productive. 8. Cultivating calm and stillness. Finding moments of stillness and peace amidst the chaos of daily life. 9. Cultivating meaningful work. Engaging in work that is fulfilling and aligns with your values, rather than pursuing external success or recognition. 10. Cultivating laughter, song, and dance. Embracing the joy of being alive and finding the humor, beauty, and lightness in life. How do we move toward wholehearted living? The journey to wholehearted living is not a one-time decision, but a continuous practice. Brown emphasizes that it requires a shift in mindset and a commitment to living authentically, despite the discomfort that may arise. Embracing imperfection is not easy, but it is the path to true freedom and fulfillment. To practice wholehearted living, Brown suggests starting small. Begin by acknowledging your imperfections and embracing them with compassion. Challenge yourself to take risks and show vulnerability in your relationships and in your work. Surround yourself with people who support your authenticity and allow you to grow without judgment. Why do we struggle with vulnerability? Despite the benefits of vulnerability, many of us resist it. Brown points out that vulnerability is often seen as a weakness in our culture, and we fear that showing our true selves will lead to rejection or shame. But vulnerability is actually a source of strength. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we show the world that we trust ourselves and our worth, regardless of others' opinions. What would happen if we stopped fearing vulnerability and instead embraced it as a tool for growth and connection? By learning to welcome vulnerability into our lives, we make space for authentic relationships and meaningful experiences. Conclusion. The path to acceptance and peace. As we learn to embrace our imperfections, we begin to move towards a life of acceptance and peace. We release the need for perfection, let go of shame, and cultivate the courage to show up as our true selves. The Gifts of Imperfection teaches us that we don't need to be perfect to be worthy of love, joy, and belonging. By embracing our flaws and practicing vulnerability, we unlock the true gifts of life. So what if the key to living a truly fulfilling life is not striving for perfection, but accepting yourself as you are, imperfections and all? By making room for vulnerability and releasing the need for perfection, we can experience the freedom and joy that come with living authentically. That's it for today's 10 minutes. Gold mine, if you find value in this, don't forget to like and subscribe. We upload +5 videos each day. Lastly, if you have any book in mind that you want to listen to, feel free to type the name in the comments. See you in the next one.